All right, let's bring in our guest. There is no offseason for him. He loves underdogs and also his actual dogs. And I believe he is the only man in NFL history to get lunch for Al Davis and have dinner with Bill Belichick. That is quite an achievement. The host of the GM Shuffle podcast, our good pal Mike Lombardi, is here. Or is he? What's happening, Mike?
Not much. It's always good. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Everything's good. Yeah, got lunch for Al. The best was always when we would bring.
Was that the last lunch you ate ever? Because it looks like you lost like 90 pounds.
No, I've eaten a lot of lunch. No, I used to get that German chocolate cake to him every day around 3:00 with a Diet Pepsi. That was always the best part.
Is that right? Wow. But that wasn't the weirdest. I think you told, what did he do? Oh, he had like mayonnaise on shrimp or something terrible, right?
No, he loved mayonnaise. He loved 11 French fries. He had a little bit of an eating kind of routine that he went through. There was the lunch was usually tuna fish, sandwich, sometimes Chinese, sometimes Kentucky Fried Chicken, sometimes McDonald's. Never really healthy.
Did you have to eat with him? Did you like whatever he ate?
No, I never had meals with him because his meal schedule was always different.
I see.
At night, he would eat like at 9:30, English cut prime rib, shrimp cocktail, Caesar salad. I'm not eating that at 9:30. I mean, I'm a fat guy, but I ain't eating that at 9:30.
No, you're not a fat guy anymore. I'm trying to tell these people, and they're going to see it when we break out this video. I don't know what the hell you're doing, but you have 100 days. I don't know if you even know this. It's 100 days to kickoff, Lombardi.
I did. I tweeted that out. I'm very excited about that. I mean, and we've still got a lot of ground to cover in the league. We got Baker Mayfield out there. We got Jimmy Garoppolo. We don't know with Deshaun Watson. I mean, there's 100 days to go, and not all family business has been settled. I mean, we haven't had the baptism yet, and so there's a lot of lingering things going on out there in the National Football League.
I do. There's like 1,000 things I want to talk to you about. But all right, let's talk with that Deshaun thing because Deshaun Watson, they had the HBO special, Real Sports. They had a couple of the accusers speak on the issue. If you go by Trevor Bauer's deal, they Major League Baseball really came down hard on him. Do you think it'll be a similar kind of suspension for Deshaun Watson, or what goes on here?
I mean, I looked at the schedule. The Browns look like they have an easy first 4 games. I have a hard time predicting what the league would do. I mean, Tom Brady got 4 games for allegedly blowing up footballs, and the Patriots lost a first-round draft pick, allegedly blowing up footballs. So I can't really predict the disciplinary action by the league and how it relates to the other cases. So it's hard for me. I think there is something coming. I did not watch the HBO, so I can't really comment on that. I think it's hard to make a commentary unless you know all the facts in the case. Certainly, it's important for the commissioner, who does admit that he knows all the facts, that they say they're going to make a decision by June, which, if he does, then he's got to make the right call.
Right. I will. By the way, I saw that too. Pretty easy top 4 or 5 games for the Browns. You smell a rat a little there?
I mean, that was 2 things hit me with the Browns schedule. They think they're going to trade Baker Mayfield to Carolina because they open up in Carolina, which certainly is always an appeal. Last year, they opened up with the Jets when Sam Darnold went there. And then the quality, the games that they're playing don't seem as hard as you might think. So to me, that was the 2 things I thought.
Yeah. All right. I want to talk about my team, the Cowboys, and the Parlay Kids team right there. 10.5 wins this season. First of all, did they have to trade Amari Cooper? Did they have to let him go after all this?
I think they did. I mean, I think they were disappointed with Amari's love of the game. I think they were disappointed with Amari disappearing from games. And you watched all the Cowboys games. There's times where he just disappeared, and he wasn't the best player on the field. You're paying him $20 million a year. I'm surprised the Browns continued with that contract because they shopped him around the league for a long time. Nobody wanted to touch that deal. And the Browns did, and they kept it. Now, the Browns have been spending ridiculous money. The Watson contract's ridiculous in terms of the guarantee. This Njoku contract has really got, Dalton Schultz is the happiest guy in America based on that contract.
Right.
So, the Browns have been spending a boatload of money on players. I think Cooper's can be a good player. I think he's inconsistent. I think sometimes the love of the game doesn't always show up in his play. And look, the Cowboys, they've got to get CeeDee Lamb the ball. Yep. They like him. I think the challenge for Dallas, you go back and watch the playoff game against San Francisco.
No, I'm not going to do
it. That offensive line got the crap beat out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to make sure their line's good. You know, they don't have the swing tackle anymore. You know, they lost that. And now you got to count on Smith being healthy for 17 games. I think that's a hard thing to count on.
I will say the one thing, you know, you say the Browns spent a lot and the Cooper contract was a lot, but then you see the Christian Kirk deal, and that really swung things. That's an underrated or underreported, I think, like turning point in these offseason signings. It made every deal after that a monster, right?
Every receiver was happy for Christian Kirk. I mean, but that's Jacksonville. They set the market for a lot of guys. I mean, you know, that's what they do. They overspend because they feel like they have to. They have to get guys there. And so, you know, for me, you know, Christian Kirk's he's not even a good, I mean, he's a good 2, maybe. He's more of a 3, you know, but to pay him what they paid him, you know, and Marvin Jones was still their leading receiver there last year when you break it down in terms of targets and in terms of his ability to make plays. So, you know, look, that's what happens in the marketplace. Guys get a contract, everybody else wants the deal. That's why Tyreek Hill got traded. That's why we saw A.J. Brown get traded. That's why people don't want to spend all that money at times.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Raiders, Brother Bry's Raiders. I know you have, you know, you love this Raiders team. Their offseason signings, Devontae Adams, Chandler Jones, Josh McDaniels gets the head coaching job. And then they sign, what do you know about this offensive coordinator, Mick Lombardi? What, are you impressed with him?
He's got a long way to go, Sal. No, we're so proud of him. And, you know, he's been able to, he started his career off in New England in the personnel department. He's worked his way up, and going with Josh was good for him because he has an opportunity to continue to learn from Josh, who I think is a really good offensive coordinator, offensive coach. And I think now he can become more of a head coach. Look, this Raider team's got talent offensively. I think with the moves that they made, that gets Hunter Renfrow inside to be the slot receiver, which is where he'll really excel. They'll move him around like Cooper Kupp and get him a chance to get isolated. And then with the outside guys like Adams and Waller, you know, missing all those games last year hurt their offense, particularly in the red zone where they weren't very good. Mm-hmm. And, you know, 2 years ago, he scored 9 touchdowns. They've got to get that play back. But the question marks on the Raiders are the defense. Can they hold up on the defensive front? Are they good enough at tackle in a division that's really good, you know, in a division that's really talented, and they're going to have to match it. I think Carr has improved under Gruden, where he was throwing the ball down the field. I think he'll take a giant step with McDaniels just by the way they do things the New England way.
I do too. And you know, of course, we look at through the gambling lens, 7-1 to win that West. I kind of think it's a toss. It's more of a toss up than 7-1 for the Raiders, a team that made the playoffs, a team that was 2 yards away from, you know, pulling with a tie with the AFC champ Bengals. Like that's nonsensical odds at 7-1. I'll take it a step further. I think Mick, I mean, what a great job. You talked about all those offensive pieces. Really, it would be like a top 3 OC job. Wouldn't you? Like, forget about if he was ever offered it. If he had to make a list, wouldn't that be one of the top 3 or 4 out there?
Well, you know, typically you don't get a job that already has an established quarterback. Usually when you come into a place as a new staff, they don't have a quarterback. That's why you got fired. Where this was a little unique. And then they make the move for Adams, which was huge for them. And then they have Waller on the team, who, you know, can be the best tight end in all of football. It's a great opportunity for him. I think, you know, last year, most people, if you ask most people about the Raiders, they would say, well, they can run the ball. They couldn't run the ball last year. Josh Jacobs was not very good. Now he's back for his 5th year. We'll see what they do. They drafted a kid out of Georgia in the 4th round. White. They got to get him going. But I do think, look, the West is talented, and the Broncos are the favorite. I think their win total's at 10. I mean, did anybody watch Russ cook last year? I said this on VSiN. I've said it. I've written this. I mean, if Russ last year, he was cooking at a diner here in Jersey. He wasn't cooking at the no, he was a line cook. He wasn't. I mean, he rushed for 183 yards, the lowest total in his career. Oh yeah. He couldn't make anybody miss in the open field, and he wasn't Russ. Now maybe he'll get all that back, but he wasn't Russ.
I'm with you. I'm down on Russ a little bit here. I'm not sure that he went to a better situation. Where now with the Jerry Jeudy stuff, there could be some off-field issues too. And you're right.
Well, he got cleared today. Jerry Jeudy just got cleared of all charges. Oh, wow. Now, I don't know if the commissioner is going to come in on that, but he got cleared. So, okay. But look, this Denver team's really talented. I mean, even though they lost Fant, they've got Albert O, I can't say his last name, but tight end, who's very talented. The offensive line's pretty good. Garrett Bowles leads the league in holding. If he can cut back on that, that would help. But the Williams kid's sensational as a running back. I mean, he's really good. They've got weapons, and defensively, they were not as good as I thought they would be last year. I mean, the Raiders have beaten them consistently.
Yeah.
And yet the Raiders aren't getting any love from the betting market on that.
And the Raiders beat the Chargers in the last season to make the play. Like everyone's a foregone conclusion. The Chargers are better.
The newest, greatest coach in the history of all of football, Staley, decided to not play for that league. I went for it 42 times on fourth down. At some point, somebody's going to say, wait a minute, what's going on here?
One more thing with your son, Mick. Was he there for the Kaepernick tryout?
He was there. Yeah, he was. I mean, look, I think Mark Davis has always thought that Kaepernick deserves another chance. I think that ultimately, when you look around, when Mike Lennon can get a job, okay? Mike Lennon has had 2 jobs as a backup. I mean, whatever you think of Kaepernick, and I've never been a huge Kaepernick fan. Even when he was coming out of Reno, I thought he didn't have great anticipation. But the guy's taken a team to the Super Bowl. He's played in playoff games. He deserves at least a backup job compared to some of the guys that are backups.
I don't know. I really don't. I mean, scrap all the political stuff. I mean, he hasn't played in 5 years. He was a 59% passer when he ducked out.
Well, no, I don't disagree with that. I mean, the 5 years makes it really hard. Yeah. I mean, that makes it really hard. You don't leave anything for 5 years. I mean, I haven't played Tiger Woods on golf in 5 years. I would be horrible at it if I went back. If you leave anything for 5 years, you're going to be the shits. But I was talking about 5 years ago, really. So, I mean, it's, and look, the political stuff, just keep that out of it. I mean, at the end with Chip Kelly, he was not very good. That I agree with you.
Right. There you go. All right. Now, babyface Joel Solomon here is going to be very upset if I don't mention his Steelers. So I'm not going to mention him. We're going to go on to something else. No, I'll ask who takes the opening snap. You can bet on these things, Trubisky or Pickett. Did they make the right call also with Pickett?
I'm not sure Pickett's a starter in the league, although, they watch Pickett every single day, that he shares the building with them. They know him better as well as anybody from a character standpoint. I just think in Matt Canada's offense, I think Pickett will be more adaptable than the great MVP Mitch. I think Mitchell's one of these players that if it goes the way you practice it, he'll be effective. If it doesn't, he won't. And oftentimes in football games, it never goes the way you practice it. So, I'm not an MVP Mitch fan. I don't know. It's funny how guys can rejuvenate their careers. They go to Buffalo, don't play, and all of a sudden he becomes a better player. Did anybody watch him in Chicago? Is like, anybody see that game? It's like they're talking about Chet Holmgren being the first pick in the NBA draft. Did anybody watch him play against Arkansas?
Yeah.
Anybody see that? At some point, we forget the last game of the year?
No, you're right. I didn't forget the last game of the year because I was there and the Rams won and they're 11-1 to repeat this year. I got to say, I think the NFC West now because now what happened? Shanahan came out and said they really are just waiting for Jimmy G to get healthy before trading him. Basically, that all signs are pointing to that. So then you got Trey Lance, you have an unhappy Kyler Murray, and what am I missing?
Russell Wilson's gone.
Russell Wilson's got in Denver. You got Drew Lock.
You got Drew Lock and Geno. I mean, Geno, the manager up there in Seattle. I mean, I don't know how they go to practice every day and look at the quarterback and see situation in Seattle and don't say, no. I mean, I don't know how good Lance is going to be. I think to me, Lance was like a judge machine. He just threw the ball as hard as he could last year. And I didn't see the athleticism that you would think he had. In terms of eluding Kyler Murray, to me, I don't understand the Kyler Murray thing at all. He's got 2 more years. Let him play it out. Like, what has Kyler Murray done to prove that he's an elite quarterback? He's not in the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. You got to pay him $45 million a year.
He's in the top 5 the first 8 weeks of the year. I don't know if there's an award or a contract for that. Yeah.
Right. But as Buddy Ryan once eloquently said, there's a place in football for the little man. It's just not in front of the big man. And when Kyler Murray gets in front of the big men, that's exactly what you said is true. His second half of the season is the shit. The Seattle game, and then when you rush him a certain way and make him play quarterback from the pocket where he can't see, it's the same problem Russell Wilson has. And when Russell loses his movement, it magnifies. I think Arizona's crazy if they pay this guy all this money. I think the plays are sensational. The beat plays are great. Beat all over. But to me, he's the mayor of Munchkinland.
And now Nuke Hopkins is the mayor of Munchkinland. Who was that in Sopranos? That was
Frankie Valli.
Frankie Valli's character, right? But Tony eventually kills him, right? It has a little problem with it.
The two Italian guys come over and kill him. Yeah, they sure do.
That's right. In his driveway. I remember that. Oh, what a great show. But the bigger point, though, about the NFC West, I think it all of a sudden, whereas last year, every team had to hit 10 or 11 games to get their projected win total. Now I think it's like the third, maybe the fourth most competitive division in football, right? I mean, AFC North is more competitive. AFC East might be more competitive at this point.
AFC East might.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, every division becomes competitive based on who's the quarterbacks.
Right.
And the problem is you got an unproven Lance, you got an unproven Geno Smith and Drew Lock. You've got Arizona, which is good for 8 games of the year. And then you've got Matt Stafford. So that's what happens. I mean, that's why the AFC South, you've got, you have Trevor Lawrence, you've got Davis Mills, you've got Matt Ryan coming back, and then you got Ryan Tannehill coming off the couch.
Who has the worst quarterback situation in NFL right now? Is it the Panthers? Is it the Giants? Maybe the Texans, as you mentioned? Although Davis Mills wasn't terrible.
He wasn't terrible. I mean, I think it's the Seattle. I think Geno Smith. Oh,
yeah. Right. Okay.
I think Geno Smith and Drew Lock have to be the worst. Now, look, I think they're, obviously Sam Darnold's had moments of playing good. He's had a lot of bad moments of playing poorly too. So, I think those are the two teams that are sitting there. Now they drafted the kid Corral in the 3rd round. Will he play? I doubt it. But, the thing with Baker is nobody wants to pay the $18 million. Nobody wants to take the $18 million off their hand. Once they traded for Watson, they weren't going to get away from that $18 million.
Right. Yeah, they're stuck. Well, Harry hates Sam Darnold. Harry, you have a question for Mike, right?
Yeah, hey, Mike, I know Bills aside here, Bills fans wondering, don't care about winning the division playoffs. Is this the year, Mike? Is this the year the Bills do make it to the Super Bowl?
I was never coming out of college. Josh Allen, I respected his athleticism. I just didn't think he could improve his accuracy, which he did, Harry. And I was wrong on that. And I think
Wyoming was like 61% only, right?
Yeah. I mean, last year, after the win game against New England, they changed what they did. They went to a single wing approach in the run game. And this guy is hard to tackle now. And when they get him going in that run game, and then he still with the receivers they have, Gabriel Davis, really came through for them along with Diggs. I think they're going to be a hard team to play. Now they got to get over the 13 seconds because that's all on Sean McDermott. I mean, that's all him. He can't get away from that. That's going to haunt him until he wins the Super Bowl because he's 13 seconds away. And I think they beat Cincinnati. I think they'll beat Cincinnati if they got to play.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah. What else, Harry? You said you had a couple questions.
Yeah. When we mentioned the Rams, how good is Allen Robinson going to be with Stafford in LA? His entire career, Allen Robinson, Bears quarterbacks or Jacksonville quarterbacks, finally got Matthew Stafford. I know they got Woods in Tennessee now, but how good is he going to be and how much of an impact is he going to be for the Rams moving forward? And the Rams 10.5 wins, you like over?
In that division, I think you got to look at that strongly. I mean, the Rams have been fortunate. They've been able to skirt these injuries. They've done a great job with not a lot of depth. They've been able to get by with it. But I think what Robinson does is he takes the pressure off of Kupp, right? So he gives them another guy to throw the ball to without having to kind of because Kupp, they move around. I think Robinson will make all the plays they need to make, and Stafford will get them the football. Their offense will be as good as it was last year, if not better. I wouldn't be surprised if they even brought Beckham back as well. So, look, they're all about stars in Los Angeles, and those guys stay healthy. They're really good. The Troy Hill back really helps them, gives them another corner that plays in their scheme well.
Yeah, and the one thing that should be noted, they play the AFC West in addition to the NFC West, which it sounds like we all think is like on the decline, but they do play 4 games against the AFC West. So I don't know about the 10.5. Could be. I mean, they could win that division at 9-8. It wouldn't be a problem. But hey, congrats! You finished another book. I don't know why you keep writing these books. I mean, they're great, but enough already. How do you find the time? This one's on the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
you already have such great knowledge. What's your favorite thing you learned doing research about the Hall of Fame?
Oh, the fact that, from about 1936 to 46, maybe 1932 to 46, the limited amount of African-American players in the league, the great Kenny Washington wasn't able to play. The only reason why the Rams were able to move to Los Angeles was because of Kenny Washington's resurgence at the stadium. It was a stadium built with minority money from Los Angeles, black and white money, and so for the Rams to move there, they had to segregate the game, and that changed it. I mean, Kenny Washington went back and played in the college All-Star game in '36, and George Halas wanted to sign him, but the other owners in the league wouldn't let him do that. So that's part of the book that I learned. A lot of it is kind of my take on the evolution of the game and what's happened. Tell stories about each player. I write up the top 100 players, but I don't do it in strong points, weak points. It's more of you're talking about the great Lawrence Taylor. He's the second pick overall in the draft. That year he comes out. 26 out of the 28 general managers were polled. Who was the best player? Everybody said it was Taylor, except for the great Bum Phillips, who drafted George Rogers. So it's a little bit about that. We talk about the Monday Night Football, how that emerged, and the impact of television within the game and the draft, the history of the draft. The draft was fascinating because Burt Bell took a Pullman car to Minneapolis to sign this kid, Stan Conca. He was one of the best fullbacks in the game, and the kid kind of met him at the hotel and duped him and played him, and he got back on the train. And Burt Bell said, if we don't have a draft, if we don't find a way to have a draft, well, this league won't survive. And he got the other owners to agree to it. And that's when Halas and these other great teams, the Giants, had pretty much all the players.
It's hard to believe there was never a draft. Like, really, it really was just taking trains chaos. And visiting kids. Yeah.
It was chaos. I mean, it was, the great Don Hudson signed 2 contracts. He signed a contract with the Brooklyn Dodgers of the league, and he signed a contract with the Green Bay Packers. And when the commissioner at the time said, whoever's contract reached my desk first, that's who gets them.
Yeah. And because of that, it was no draft. Mel Kiper Sr. was like digging ditches, right? And no, I don't know. I have no idea.
Right. And Todd McShay Sr., they didn't know what to do. I talk about that too, the evolution of draftniks, about how the drugstore list came into play, which was a pharmacist in Cincinnati, and how these 2 guys from New York really started the draftnik world and how that's impacted it.
Wow. You're in New Jersey. We know you love the boss, and I guess that was the big offseason news for you, right? That was bigger
really, I mean, the fact that he's going to play Vienna, I mean, he's got 2, I've seen him in Florence. The fact that he's going to go to Vienna, which I want to go and see Vienna. I've always had a dream of seeing Billy Joel in Vienna and then playing Vienna for me. But I mean, I would love to see the boss there. Plus he's playing in a town north of Milan, which he loves. He loves playing. If you see any show of the boss in Italy, it's incredible.
What are you going to do? Do you have dates circled on your calendar? Do they conflict with the NFL schedule?
I got to get time off to get over there, and but I do have, and he's going to have an American tour. I was promised the year we played Seattle in the Super Bowl by Tony La Russa. We were all out to dinner, and he promised me that he would get me backstage so I could at least shake his hand. That hasn't come through, so I got to cash in on my promise.
Oh, really? Well, listen, maybe the stars will align, and you'll be able to interview the boss in Vienna for the GM Shuffle podcast.
Awesome! Wouldn't that be great? I did Stevie Van Zandt this year, which was tremendous. It was incredible.
He's always great. That's a great listen. It all is GM Shuffle podcast. Take a listen. Mike Lombardi. Mike, thanks for coming on. Terrific as always.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Mike. Take care, Mike.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.